The bouquet shakes in my hands as I stand at the church doors. The music has already started on the other side. The coordinator is whispering that it is time. My dad steps close, his face tight with worry about the guests, not about me. He tells me he will not walk me down the aisle unless I apologize to Patricia. The words hit me like a stone. I stare at him, thinking he is joking, but he is not. His eyes are cold and firm. I refuse to apologize for something I did not do. My dad turns away. He does not say a word of love or comfort. He simply walks off, leaving me alone. The coordinator reaches for the handle and asks what I want to do. My heart races so fast it hurts. I can hear the soft start of the wedding song. I feel like I am standing on the edge of a cliff, and everyone in that church is waiting for me to fall or fly. I look at the doors, then at the empty space where my dad stood, and I realize the choice is now mine. The music grows louder, and I feel the vibrations through the floor. Lily stands beside me, begging me to say sorry just to keep the peace. Her voice trembles because she knows how serious this moment is. Her plea pulls me into a sharp memory from the rehearsal dinner. I remember Patricia calling me ungrateful because I did not want her to choose my vows. She said I should be thankful someone with taste was helping me. I remember how Ryan defended her. He told me later that if I could not apologize, he did not know how our marriage would survive. That night, I felt something inside me bend a little too far. Now, here at the church, I see that this is not only about an apology. It is about the rest of my life. If I give in now, I will spend my marriage apologizing for things I did not do. I can feel my breath shaking as I think about it. The coordinator asks again if I am ready. My answer is stuck in my throat, but something inside me begins to push forward. The rehearsal dinner sits heavy in my mind. I stand in the entry hall with a glass of champagne while Patricia calls for attention. She taps her fork and proudly pulls out a printed sheet. She tells everyone she rewrote my vows because mine sounded childish. Her smile is tight and sharp. When I say kindly that I will use my own words, she accuses me of being disrespectful to the family. My dad laughs and tells everyone that I get emotional. I feel my face burn as she continues. She says my family is too soft and that they should be thankful that her family is taking me in. The room becomes a cold space where every eye watches me. I try to steady my voice as I tell her that she is not marrying me. Ryan is. I want my own vows. Chairs stop moving. Forks pause in the air. The silence feels like a wall. I look at Ryan, waiting for him to defend me. I look at my dad, hoping he will say something. Neither does. Patricia tilts her head like she expected this and is ready to win. Ryan asks me to step into a quiet room. My dad stays with Patricia, patting her shoulder as if she is the one who was attacked. In the side room, my heart thuds like a heavy drum. Ryan says I embarrassed his mother. He says I should apologize and stop being stubborn. His words cut deeper because I know he believes them. I tell him I did nothing wrong. He says again that a marriage cannot work if I cannot get along with his family. I feel the air leave my chest. He does not ask how I feel. He only wants the conflict solved in the way that keeps his mother calm. When we return to the table, my dad leans close and whispers that I need to stop talking back. He says Patricia is trying to help and that I could lose a good future if I ruin this. I sit there, surrounded by plates, music, and fake smiles, and I feel myself shrinking. For the first time, I wonder if anyone in that room would ever stand up for me. The night before the wedding, I lie awake in my childhood room. The walls are the same soft color from when I was young, but nothing feels safe. I hear my dad in the hallway on the phone. His voice is low but clear. He tells Patricia he will make sure I apologize before the ceremony. He promises her that he will talk sense into me. I sit up in bed with a cold feeling in my chest. When he comes into my room, he does not greet me. He does not notice my tears. He says that sometimes people have to swallow their pride. He tells me a marriage needs peace and that the woman often has to bring it. I ask him what will happen if I do not apologize. He sighs and says that I will walk to the altar alone. His words feel like a final sentence. He thinks he is helping me, but all I hear is that he cares more about keeping everyone else happy than protecting me. When he leaves, I stare at the ceiling and wonder how this became my life. In the bridal suite, I sit very still as everything inside me starts to click together. This moment is not new. It has been happening my entire life. I think back to school, when a teacher called me loud and difficult. She embarrassed me in front of the whole class. Instead of defending me, my dad dragged me to her office and forced me to apologize. I think about family gatherings, when relatives poked at my appearance or called me quiet and strange. My dad always told me to smile and avoid drama. He never stood up for me. It was easier to let me take the blame. Now I see myself standing at the edge of a wedding that is not really mine. It feels like I am about to continue a story I never wanted. The weight of it makes my eyes sting. I realize that maybe this is the moment I have to choose myself for the first time. The coordinator knocks softly. I whisper that I need one more minute. A memory from years ago rises in my chest. The first time I brought Ryan home for Thanksgiving. My dad was impressed right away. Ryan walked in with confidence, shaking my dad's hand firmly. The smile on my dad's face told me everything. At dinner, Ryan talked about his job, his travels, and his family's lake house. My dad nearly glowed with pride. When Ryan made a joke about me being soft and too gentle for the real world, my dad laughed loudly. He told me to learn from Ryan. I sat there, confused by how quickly I had become a decoration in my own home. I wanted to feel supported, but instead I felt myself fade while they bonded over ambition and the way the world works. Looking back, I now understand that my dad loved the idea of me marrying someone strong and successful. He never cared about how I was treated. As long as I did not complain, everything seemed perfect to him. Planning the wedding felt like walking deeper into a maze that belonged to Patricia. It started small. She suggested gentle touches for the menu. Then she picked the venue. Then she told me my dress did not flatter the family image. Each week, she took something else from my hands. When I tried to speak up, Ryan said I was being sensitive. My dad said I should be grateful. Patricia took over the seating chart, the flowers, even the color of my bridesmaids' dresses. I felt myself turn into a guest at my own wedding. I remember crying quietly in a bridal shop dressing room while Patricia stood outside telling Ryan her taste was better than mine. No one asked what I wanted. They only cared that everything looked perfect on the outside. The shift happened during a lunch meeting. Patricia slid a prenup across the table. I stared at the papers, reading lines that felt like insults dressed as legal terms. It protected the family business. It suggested I might not contribute much. Ryan said I should not take it personally. My dad said most smart families do this. When I asked for time to let a lawyer review it, Patricia's eyes hardened. She said it showed my lack of trust. I felt small and trapped in a corner. The table felt colder. I noticed no one cared that my feelings were stirred. They only cared that I signed. That moment made me wonder what kind of family I was marrying into. I felt more like a visitor than a partner. I stayed quiet because I hoped it would get better. I was wrong. A few days after the prenup meeting, I heard something I was not meant to hear. I walked down the hallway outside Ryan's apartment and heard his voice on the phone. He was talking to Patricia. He said I was emotional. He said I would calm down once I understood what marrying into their family meant. Then he said something that made my heart stop. He said there were plenty of women who would want this chance. Patricia laughed and told him not to let me ruin the connections the marriage would bring. I froze. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone and pressed record. I caught enough to know exactly how they saw me. When he hung up, I stayed in the hallway for a long time, unable to move or cry. I saved the recording. I did not know what I would use it for, but I knew it mattered. Here is part 2, chapters 11 to 18, each with about 200 to 220 words, grades 6 to 7 English, first person, no dash symbols, and fully consistent with your plot. I sat Ryan down one evening and tried to speak clearly and calmly. I told him how hurt I felt by his mother's behavior. I told him I needed us to stand together and set boundaries. My voice was steady, but inside I was shaking. For a moment, he looked like he understood. He touched my hand and said he would talk to Patricia. I wanted to believe him so badly. Later that night, my phone rang. It was my dad. He said Patricia was crying because she felt shut out, and he said I needed to fix the problem. That was when I understood the truth. Ryan had not spoken to Patricia at all. Instead, he had gone straight to my dad and told him I was causing trouble. My dad took his side instantly. I felt alone in the middle of people who claimed to love me but never listened. I sat on the edge of the bed that night, staring at the wall, realizing that every time I tried to stand up for myself, someone rushed to push me back down. A week before the wedding, I met my dad at a diner. The light above our booth flickered softly as I stirred my drink. I decided to ask him something I already feared. I asked what would happen if there was ever a conflict between me and Ryan's family. Would he stand by me or stay out of it? He did not think long. He said he would always choose peace, and sometimes peace meant following the people with more influence. He did not look at me when he said it. He said I was strong enough to handle being misunderstood, and he did not want to be placed in the middle. His words drained something inside me. I realized he had chosen his position long before I asked the question. He wanted the wedding to look perfect. That mattered more to him than how I was treated. I walked out into the parking lot with the cold wind brushing my face. I knew then that if I needed support, it would not come from him. The full scene of the rehearsal dinner plays in my mind like it happened minutes ago. Patricia lifted her glass and thanked everyone for coming. She said she was excited to help shape me into someone who fit their family. People laughed nervously. My mom kept her eyes on her plate. Patricia made comments dressed as jokes about how I would need guidance to be part of a real family. I felt something inside me snap. I spoke up and told her to stop disrespecting me. Patricia clutched her pearl necklace and gasped as if I had insulted her. The room froze. My dad stood up and pointed at me. He said I needed to apologize if I wanted him to walk me down the aisle. His voice was loud and full of disappointment. Everyone stared, waiting for my response. My cheeks burned and my heart pounded, but I refused. I turned and walked out while whispers filled the room. I remember hearing chairs scrape and people shifting as if they had witnessed something awful. I stood outside the hall, breathing hard, feeling both shaken and strangely free. Later that night, my mom knocked softly on my bedroom door. I was wiping off my makeup, trying not to cry again. She sat beside me on the bed and took my hand. She said she had spent many years apologizing just to keep my dad calm and to keep the house peaceful. She said she did not want that future for me. Her voice cracked when she said she was sorry for not protecting me enough when I was younger. She told me that my dad cared more about how things looked to others than how they felt inside the family. She asked me if I really wanted to marry into another version of that life. I felt tears roll down my face as she spoke, not because of sadness alone, but because she was finally saying the words I had needed to hear for years. Before she left my room, she said she would stand by me if I chose not to go through with the wedding. Her presence gave me a small spark of strength in the middle of all the noise. In the early morning before the wedding, I sat on the floor of my room with my back against the bed. The room was dark except for the soft glow from my phone screen. I listened again to the recording of Ryan and Patricia talking about me. The words felt like sharp stones inside my chest, but I forced myself to hear every bit of it. I opened my notebook and wrote what I wanted to say if I ever decided to stand up in front of everyone. My hands shook as I wrote. Then I pulled out my phone and sent a text to the church coordinator. I asked him where the microphone would be during the ceremony and how the sound system worked. I also sent a message to my mom asking her to bring a flash drive to the church. I told her it was important. She replied with a simple message saying she trusted me. I placed my phone beside me and let out a long breath. It was the first moment I felt like I was taking control of something. Back in the bridal suite, after my dad walked away, I stood completely still. The coordinator kept waiting for my answer. Lily kept begging me to fix things because everyone would judge Ryan if I did not walk out on time. Her words sounded distant, like echoes. I looked at myself in the mirror. My face was streaked with tears, but there was something new in my eyes. There was calm under the pain. It was the calm that comes when a decision has already been made deep inside. I told Lily that maybe humiliation was something some people in that church needed to feel today. She stared at me in shock. I did not explain. Instead, I picked up my phone and made a very important call. My voice was steady, even though my heart was pounding. The person on the other end answered right away. I told them it was time to change the plan. I called my mom. She was already seated near the front of the church. I told her quietly that Dad had refused to walk me down the aisle unless I apologized to Patricia. She went silent for a moment. Then she told me she had already brought the flash drive, just like I asked. She said she would meet me at the side door. I felt a deep wave of relief pass through me. I asked her if she was sure she wanted to help me with this. She said she had never been more sure in her life. After the call ended, I looked through the small window of the church door. I saw Patricia laughing with guests, acting as if everything was perfect. The sight made something inside me settle. This was my moment to choose who I wanted to be. I took a deep breath and reached for the handle, ready to find my mom and start the plan we had quietly built together. Inside the church, the guests were starting to sense that something was wrong. The music looped again and again. People shifted in their seats. Some whispered to each other. Patricia complained loudly that I was trying to make a dramatic entrance. Ryan rubbed his hands on his suit pants and kept checking the doors. My dad sat very stiffly in the front row, pretending nothing was strange. None of them knew that at that exact moment my mom and I were standing with the sound operator near the back of the room. My mom handed him the flash drive and spoke softly. She told him to play the file only when I gave the signal. The sound operator looked nervous, but he nodded. I watched the guests from behind the wall and felt my heartbeat slow down. I was not scared anymore. I was ready. The music stopped for a short moment and then began again as the doors finally opened. Every guest turned to look. Patricia looked pleased, like everything was going her way. Ryan smoothed his suit and stood a little taller. My dad rose from his seat as if he expected me to appear on his arm. Instead, I stepped through the doorway alone. My bouquet was in one hand, and a microphone was in the other. A loud gasp moved across the room like a wave. I walked slowly, each step steady, as eyes widened in shock. I saw Ryan's face twist with confusion. I saw Patricia sit up straight with her mouth slightly open. My dad stayed standing, frozen, unsure of what to do. I stopped in the middle of the aisle, right between the rows of guests. The church was silent except for the soft hum of the speakers. I lifted the microphone to my mouth. My hands were no longer shaking. For the first time in a long time, I felt fully present in my own life. Standing there in the center of the aisle, I took a deep breath. I told everyone I was sorry for the delay, but there had been a change of plans. The words echoed through the church. I said that today would still involve a decision, but it was not the one they expected. I told them that I had spent so much time trying to prove I was worthy of this family that I forgot to ask if they were worthy of me. The room felt heavy with silence. My voice did not shake. I told them clearly that I would not be marrying Ryan. I wanted them to know the truth behind that choice. I saw Ryan's face turn pale. Patricia opened her mouth, ready to object, but I held up my hand. I said the truth always comes out, even when people try to hide it behind fancy clothes and perfect events. The whole church leaned in, waiting for what I would say next. I turned toward the back of the church and gave the coordinator a small nod. He pressed play on the file labeled Truth. Ryan's voice filled the room, calling me emotional and saying that other women would be grateful to marry into his family. Patricia's laugh followed, light and sharp. She told him not to let me ruin the connections they needed. People in the pews gasped and whispered. Faces changed from confusion to shock. Some guests stared directly at Patricia. Others looked away in shame. Ryan rushed toward me, whispering harshly that this was private. I stepped back and told him that he had not cared about privacy when he said those things in the first place. The audio ended with Patricia's voice talking about keeping me under control. The silence after the recording felt louder than the words themselves. I looked out at the room and let them feel that silence fully. I turned my eyes to the front row where my dad sat. My voice was calm, but it carried through every corner of the church. I said the worst part of everything was not the recording. The worst part was knowing my own father was willing to let me walk into this kind of marriage without ever defending me. I said he refused to walk me down the aisle unless I apologized to Patricia. People stared at him as he tried to stand and explain, but his voice cracked and nothing came out. I told the room that I had spent my whole life apologizing for things I never did, and I was done. I said that love is not built on silence or fear. It is built on truth. My dad sat back down slowly, his face red and tight. I felt the weight of years lift off my shoulders. In that moment, I finally understood that choosing myself was not selfish. It was necessary. I turned to Lily and handed her my bouquet. Then I looked at Ryan. He was sweating and trying to smile as if he could fix everything. He asked me to talk in private. He said we could solve this together. I shook my head. Some things are not meant to be solved. They are meant to end. I took off the ring he gave me and placed it in his hand. I told him I hoped he found someone who matched what he wanted because it was not me. His mouth opened, but he had no words. I walked down the aisle toward the doors. My mom waited there with open arms. As I reached her, some people began to clap quietly. The sound grew stronger, spreading through the room. My mom and I walked out into the sunlight together. The warmth on my skin felt like a promise of a new beginning. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. Later that night, I sat on my couch wearing soft sweatpants, my hair loose and my makeup gone. My phone buzzed non-stop. Some relatives called me ungrateful. Others sent gentle messages of support. My dad left a message saying I had embarrassed him. Patricia sent a long text warning me about legal action for sharing her voice. I set the phone down for a moment and breathed slowly. Then I opened my camera and recorded a video telling the story from the beginning, in my own words. No one talked over me. No one twisted anything. I posted it without expecting anything. I went to sleep. In the morning, I woke up to thousands of notifications. Comments poured in from people who said they wished they had spoken up sooner in their own lives. They called me brave. They called me strong. For the first time in a long time, I felt seen for who I truly was. Weeks passed, and I sat in a small coffee shop with my laptop open. Messages from strangers filled my inbox. Some said my story helped them leave toxic homes. Others said they found courage to speak for themselves. My dad sent a few texts, all centered on how people in town were talking. None were real apologies. I kept my distance. My mom and I went to therapy together, slowly building something healthier. I heard that Ryan's family business faced questions after the recording spread online, and some partners backed away. I did not feel joy from that. I only felt closure. One bright afternoon, I closed my laptop and stepped outside. The air felt fresh on my face. I realized that I had walked down an aisle after all. It was not the aisle lined with flowers and guests. It was the aisle that led me back to myself. I was the one who chose it. I was the one who walked it. And from now on, I would be the one who decides who walks beside me.